Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another The Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today we have the honor to talk to Melanie Benson. Hello, Melanie. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So we always say we can give you a big introduction about you, but you're the best person who knows more about yourself than anybody else. So who is Melanie Benson?
Well, that's such a big question, but let's just take it in the context of the work that I do in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Melanie Benson, I am a authority amplifier for coaches and people who are building a business around their expertise. And really the bottom line is they want to make a greater impact in the world. I like to think of them as ripple makers. They see that when they're doing the work that they do in the world, they're making big ripples of change and transformation. I've been in this world since 2000, which is when I started my coach training and started coaching in my business. And I went full-time in 2001. So I'm kind of in the OG world here. And today what I specialize in is helping people who feel like a best kept secret discover how to be a lighthouse with their message, with their signature work, and to really stand out in a sea of same sounding noise out there, which we know the coaching industry is getting pretty noisy these days. And I do that through a program called Authority Accelerator. And I have a mastermind as well called Ripple Makers. And I have a bazillion tools since we're all about tools here. Since I've been doing this so long, it's like many people, it's like, oh, I could make a tool for this. I could make a tool for that. And really, honing into the messaging and the really helping people like claim their thing they do in the world and be known for that has been my great passion.
How did you find, create, or stumble into this focus on amplifying authority?
Yeah. Well, I should also thing I forgot to mention is I've been podcasting for a very long time. I have a podcast called Amplify Your Success. We've landed in the top 1% of podcasts according to Listen Notes. And I'm very grateful because it means we have a loyal following of people. And that's actually part of how I came to do this work is early on in my career, I discovered that there was a shortcut I could take to attracting the right clients, and that was speaking. Being able to share my message, being able to get in front of an audience of people who, in some way, shape, or form, needed what I specialized in. And back then it was very different. Well, that gave me that kind of that rapport building, connection building moment that so many of us need to be able to have somebody go, oh my gosh, I think I need to work with you. Because back then I had no idea how to explain what I did. I mean, do you guys ever experience that where you're like, I know what I can do, but I don't know how to put the words out there that people really get. And especially when back then we didn't have social media, we didn't have the video like Zoom and any of the YouTube stuff that we do today. So it was very like boots on the ground kind of thing, get in front of people. But that wasn't really something I wanted to do long term. I didn't want to be on the road a lot. I wanted to be able to cultivate connection without being gone all the time. And so as the internet got more savvy and we had more ways to connect with people online, I found myself really gravitating towards the world of podcasting. But through all of these twists and turns, one of the things that became very apparent was if I didn't know how to quickly articulate the value and speak to the desire that my dream client has, and maybe the problem or the roadblock that was in the way, I was going to be invisible. I was not going to land that client. Somebody else that was better at that was. And so through all of the speaking and the training and the marketing and the learning copy and all that, I started to realize my great passion and one of my superpowers is helping people recognize in themselves and then use the words to describe it. What are they known for? What is their the thing that separates them from everyone else that does similar things, so that they're recognized and they're like they're in people are invested in wanting to know from them. I'm sorry, all the words are going through my head at the same time. That's what happens when you're good with words. All the words come at once, right?
So you mentioned something about value, so that
Mhm.
people and certainly coaches look at what is the value that they bring. Um, One thing is about mentioning your value, but at the same time, I think the money side is a big issue that I sometimes see with, like, say, how I do coaching, I help people, and that money thing is like so uncomfortable. And I don't know
You
if
mean
you
the
see
money?
this. Go ahead.
Well, do you mean the money that they're going to ask for,
Yes,
like the invest? Yeah, yeah.
exactly. The
Okay, got it.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
So the money they ask for is like, have you seen this? How is that something also you talk about with your clients, with coaches?
Mm. Well, money is such an interesting part of the coaching relationship, right? And I think my one thing that could be really powerful to kind of bring into the conversation is when we talk about coaching, there's so many definitions of coaching these days, right? Like I think probably when you guys started in your training and when you started coaching and as professional coaches, you may experience this differently. But in my market, where coaching is anything from a course creator to a marketer to somebody who has never had any coach training in their life, but they want to teach people something. I think the true definition of coaching, the way I learned it, has gotten somewhat diluted. And this is relevant to your question because how we see our value is now getting wrapped up in what is the return on investment that I can promise somebody. So we have the world of marketing who uses coach as a moniker or as a title, but they're not really coaching, they're teaching.
Hmm.
They're mentoring, they're consulting on a system or a strategy or technique, right? Which is really important. And then there's the traditional coaching, the one I learned, and maybe this is what's true for you as well, where I learned how to hold space for someone's greatness to emerge, where I learned how to invite somebody to step into their fear, resolve that fear, explore that fear, and transform it into fuel for their greatest possibilities, right? And to get them there was the using a lot of questions, using like curiosity and inquiry to ignite clarity inside of my client. So somewhere in those first 5 years, I discovered that my ability to do that was really powerful. But what people often wanted was they wanted direction. They wanted how. They wanted to know more. They wanted a system, right? They wanted to lean into something that would be proven to get them results. And so, what I think has happened for a lot of coaches is there's this fusion between what we've learned, how to be really powerful coaches, and this craving that people have. I need to know how. Tell me what to do.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I help my clients do is figure out, who do you want to be known for? Is your process coaching? Is your process a method? And inside most of us as coaches, we do have a method, right? Even if it doesn't feel that way. And then what's the value of somebody completing that process with you? And that's where the pricing comes in. Now, do people have fear about asking for money? Yeah, right. Especially if you haven't resolved your relationship with your prosperity. And that was definitely a big transformation for me, which I'm happy to share about because I had so many money and prosperity blocks as a young coach. That was a huge hurdle to get through, integrate, and embody, being able to have more premium rates and stand with it and be able to attract people that were willing to invest in it.
Well, what stands out for me in what you're saying is just between certainty and uncertainty. You know, to describe a process, here's what it is, here's what's going on, that very clear, I'm the expert, I know what's going to happen, I can talk, like there's clarity around that, I can talk to it with specificity, and there's a way that we can convey value a lot more easily with clarity and certainty. And yet the transformational potential of holding space for, being with, stepping into fear, it's so powerful because it's so vague and specific and co-created, yet it's one of those things that I found coaches go, look, just taste it, and then you'll know what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me just give you an experience and then it's all going to be clear. Absolutely.
And then after the first experience, they still have the same problem to ask for money.
Yeah. And so let's lean into that. Like, what is it about us as coaches when we have training, we have processes, we have certainty about, the work we've done. And most of us as coaches, when we've been in a training program, we've been coached, so we know how powerful it can be. But maybe part of it is, we don't have the words and the clarity of inside ourselves to claim with certainty what's possible for our client, because we're still kind of in this murky, messy, like, okay, I know it works, I just don't know how to explain how it works. One of the things that really supported me, and I think my clients would acknowledge as well, is having that sense of clarity of, here's what I'm known for. Here's the kind of things that my clients receive. And by the way, when I started teaching Authority Accelerator 8 years ago, I had a suspicion of what would happen because I knew, reinventing my own authority several times, I knew what was possible. But then proving it out with my clients, the feedback they gave me was not actually what I thought they were going to get, but it was more powerful. The reason why people joined my program were not the reasons I thought they were going to join. And I was like, oh, this is fascinating, because there were hidden benefits. There were hidden like clues I was giving people through my language, through my energy, through my messaging that they were attracted to, but I was just being me. And so it was really an interesting evolution, which partly sometimes I really think coaches benefit from doing kind of like a pilot program or having a way to do something a few times before they try to message it, because then they start to embody that sense of clarity and that confidence before they try to sell it.
I can absolutely see that. And one thing I loved about how you described that was the excitement of being surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And my head first went to, oh, a lot of coaches that I know and have worked with would actually see that differing feedback as almost a failure. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, here's what they're supposed to come in. They're not. I know. What am I doing wrong? What's happening? And that judgment, that self-saboteur, all of that sort of stuff sort of then pushes back, rather than, as you said, well, all right, how I think I'm showing up versus how I'm showing up. Well, let's get curious about how I'm showing up and how I'm being perceived and what's actually compelling people rather than what I think they should be excited by.
Yeah, there's a little bit, I was just kind of seeing a part two to that too. And I think one of the other things that helps with the confidence around what we charge and how we talk about money with and investing with potential clients is having those conversations with the right people. If you've ever been in a situation where you're having an enrollment conversation or a sales call with somebody who's not a good fit for you and they don't really have the problem that you want to help them solve, like it's the blank stare, it's the awkward silences, it's like the, oh, that's interesting, right? And when you're having that conversation with somebody who truly can benefit from what you do, the lights are shining. The spark is igniting. They're leaning in and they're intrigued. And then it's just having confidence of asking the right questions to make sure it's a good fit and positioning the value of what you do and positioning, what's important to them. Some of the things that I'm hearing that are important to people in the coaching relationship aren't the same thing that they were even 2 years ago. They want connection. They want to be seen. They want to know that somebody cares about them as a human, not just a number that's enrolling in their program. And I think that the tides are changing quite a bit with a lot of the flooding of coaches in our marketplace. And what used to be maybe overlooked as important is now really kind of rekindling. It's like, I want a coach that's going to show up for me. Right? It's like, so I think that level of intimacy and connection and trust is really important to people in that decision making.
When
So
you say a
whatever.
coach that will show up for me, what do you mean by that? Because that's like a real simple thing to say, but it feels a lot bigger than the words.
Well, so, in the industry where a lot of people call themselves coaches, but really what they are is marketers and course creators. And again, I'm not slamming that. It's just a different way coaching, the title coaching is being used, is they're selling people into programs where there's hundreds or thousands of members. And they may not really be accessible. So people are joining because the energy of the person who leads the program, but they're not accessible. They're not going to recognize the individual client. And so I think when people tell me, it's like what I crave right now is somebody that's going to show up for me. It's like, are you going to notice if I'm not even there? Right? Are you going to call me out if I'm hiding for my greatness? Right? It's like, how do you show up and believe in me and be my coach, not just my trainer or my consultant? Right? So it's a little bit of a line. And I guess I recognize this because of my coach training. I am connection driven. We probably know that now because we've been building our connection over the last few months. But I like connection with people. And I build my programs so that there is connection with the person, the people in it, not just hundreds and thousands of people for the sake of moving more people through my programs. It doesn't light me up.
Mm. You mentioned something really interesting, is that the coaching or the market is flooded with coaches.
Mm.
So that generates two thoughts in me. One, a lot of people think that's an interesting market. That's one. Secondly, that means the competition is much harder and much stronger. Where we're coming back where we started talking about in the beginning, well, if I'm stumbling around my words, I'm going to be eaten up by the competition.
Yeah.
And the whole messaging and putting yourself, what's my superpower, what I'm great at, what is the value that I bring to the clients or my potential client is so important, and to be able to differentiate yourself from.
Yes, differentiation so key there.
What
Yeah.
can you tell more about differentiation?
So I teach that there are four differentiators, and I believe that most coaches don't have enough differentiation. And by the way, as you're early on in your coaching journey, if you're just kind of getting your sea legs and you're just trying to figure out your stuff, right? Differentiation may not be the first step. It can be, but a lot of people are like, no. I remember early on, I was sitting at coffee with one of my mentors, a really amazing man who'd been coaching professionally for many years. He had all the trainings, all the certifications, right? And he said, so tell me, I was struggling to get clients, probably like, 12 or 13 months in. And he said, so Melanie, explain to me, like, how do you introduce yourself? What do you say? And I like flubbed in. I'm like, I'm a coach. I do this, right? Like, and he said, who do you want to work with? And I was like, anyone who has that need, right? And
Typical
he's like,
answer.
this is why you don't have clients. And he's like, really, what would you think about specializing? And I'm like, like, then I'll lose clients. I vividly remember this conversation. And he's like, smack on the head. What do you're like blocking yourself. I've had the same conversation with coaches who are established and been in business for a while, and they're still really afraid of specializing and differentiating. But here's what I think it does. In the market we're in today, we can't be everything to everyone because then nobody recognizes why you for them. You're just another coach. And when we have the courage to lean in a bit to one of the four differentiators, one of them everybody can do, this is something that you can actually cause to become a client magnet. When somebody's searching on LinkedIn for a service provider or someone that does what you do, you're going to stand out. When somebody is saying, hey, who do you know who specializes in this? You're going to stand out. You're going to be the one that they say, this person. So I'll share what these 4 differentiators are really quickly. And probably by the time this episode airs, you can find a deeper dive into this on my podcast. I'm happy to share the link if it's helpful, but it's on Amplify Your Success. And it's called the 4th differentiator. So the first one is like, who do you want to work with? And okay, let's all get out our pen and paper. And I want you to write down who you think you want to work with. And if you said something like business owners, leaders, CEOs, that's not specific enough. Okay, that's a good starting point, but you want to go a little deeper. You want to really start to understand who actually is going to benefit from your work the most. And there's several layers to that, which we don't have time to completely unpack. But the more specific you're willing to be, the more you can speak to them in language that resonates with them. You want what I call the fall off the elevator, like the, oh yeah, you're speaking to me, you're eavesdropping in on my brain kind of messaging. And the reason I say fall off the elevator is because I had somebody literally, like when I was coming off the elevator, like almost fall over going like, oh my God, are you Melanie Benson? And, I was having this weird moment of like, what's happening, and she's like, I'm here because of what you said on the call before we bought our ticket. She heard the message that spoke to her. She's like, literally, I felt like you were in my brain with me. That's what we want. So first one is who. Second one is what can you do? What's your specific solution? This is where things get harder for people, right? Especially coaches who's like, I just want to help everybody. I've been working with a client who she's a therapist who's trained in NLP and hypnosis. And she was like, well, I can do this for anybody. And I'm like, well, anybody isn't going to buy. And so what we worked on was like where her passion was, where she had access to client base already, and what is the specific process that gets the fastest and best results for her clients. So we worked on a little framework about like how she had a 5-minute calm method for parents of high needs children that were constantly overwhelmed, overstimulated, and in chaos. And like that just took off for her. So all of a sudden, instead of trying to do NLP for anybody that crossed her path, she had a very specific thing, and people who were looking for that knew how to find it. The third is double niche, specific person, specific solution, which is what I just gave you the example of my client, Kim. And the fourth one, and this is a bigger topic than we can unpack, is really like your personal energetics, your brand energy, who you are, how you show up, and how you as a human being are compelling to that client base. Because nobody can do it the way you do it, even if you do similar things to your competition.
I would like to add one more, because I've seen with many that they can figure out who's the who, what is it. But then the question that sometimes they forget, say, oh, that's my ideal client, that's what I can say, but do they have the money to pay you? Because you can find your ideal client and then say, well, they cannot pay my rate. So is that the right market for you, even if you're the best? Or you need to change your rate, or you need to look at another ideal client.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my factors inside the ideal. Who is it for?
Yeah.
There's several criteria that we have to look at. And I've certainly coached a lot of people through I want to like, I had a client one time who she's like, I want to work with network marketers, like moms who work at home who are network marketers. And I was like, well, let's talk about their financial bandwidth, right? And then all of a sudden she's like, oh yeah, they're probably not going to pay for this. I'm like, no, they're not. So yes, finding that cross section of who's the ideal client and what's their financial ability to invest in that solution can help you really discern more like, who do you want to work with? I mean, it's not a bad thing to work with people that don't have any money, but you have to really think about your strategy and is your program, do you have a way to monetize and make money if you're not going to be able to charge a lot? So that's scaling. That's like reaching more people, right? And so it's a different model.
Yeah, that is. So yeah, it's interesting, and thank you for sharing those 4 differentiators, because many people, and it not only in coaches, many people who do like self-entrepreneurs or something struggle with this as well. Oh, I got a great idea, and then they say, oh, I have the best idea, and then nobody wants to buy it, and then they worry, so why not?
Yeah, I call that falling in love with your process or your breakthrough, right? Or your transformation. It's like as coaches, we know how valuable what our work is that we do in the world. But if you fall in love with it before you figured out the bridge between what you can do for somebody and what people want to spend money on, you're going to spend a lot of money putting marketing and messaging and delivery around something before you've actually identified, is there a desire? There might be a need, but is there a desire for this?
Yeah.
And desire is what gets people to open their wallet and say, I'm ready to invest. Need is not enough of a compelling movement or does, like energy to get somebody to buy because people
And,
will suffer from a state of need for a really, really long time, right?
and
How many
exactly,
clients do we know about that? Yeah.
and certainly in coaching, because if it's a
Yeah.
need, I need to eat some food. Well, I need it. It's something that they say, but like if I need to do coaching, it's something. What is they don't see the benefit. That's why I love when you say the
Right.
desire.
Yes. And again, I love coaching, but people aren't going to buy coaching. Coaching's a process. And this is where a lot of my coaching clients have had huge transformational breakthroughs, is to recognize your process is to coach somebody. But what they're going to invest in is what am I going to be like when I'm done? So that's the key is like how do we help people recognize what's possible when they've worked with you and they've gone through your transformational coaching process, right?
That's what they call in
That was
marketing.
my big breakthrough.
That's what they call in marketing instead of focusing on features, what a lot of coaching do on process, focus on the benefits
Mm-hmm.
that the persons are going to get.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
I love that. So one of the things that I've seen coaches and many of us do is get stuck in an identity description. And you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned you had a couple of redesigns, repositioning of your own different authority ways of being. Like, what have you learned about redefining your authority?
It's interesting that you chose the word identity. I just wrote an article about this because I think we get very attached as human beings to the identity that we formed about something. We take great pride in our accomplishments, as we should. And there often becomes a moment when our identity has to evolve to continue to do the work that we're meant to do next. And if we hold on to the identity of who we've been up to now, because there's a benefit, there's a gain of staying of that identity, we can lose like the true calling, the true soul's work, the true impact we're meant to have as a human being, as that has this amazing gift of coaching. So in my experience, I mean, honestly, like the beginning was I was just scrappy. I'm like, what do I need to do so that I can sustain myself? I was a single woman. I didn't have like a partner that was paying my bills. I had a goal, like I wanted to be the first woman in my family to make six figures. And once I healed my relationship with money and I really had my own breakthrough around like, what does it look like to be successful? Like, I made six figures in 9 months. That was like that breakthrough moment to making six figures, like, got really easy really fast. But there became a point where that version of me that was scrappy and it's like, yeah, I can do this. I'm good at this. Like, I know how to do this wasn't enough anymore. And the market was changing in 2009. We had this huge credit debacle where, I mean, for me personally, I was at multiple six figures and my cresting into seven figures. And my overnight, I went from having like a $70,000 a month to having $40,000 not clear because people's credit cards froze. And that kind of created this interesting perfect storm in my life where I was growing and I was hustling and pushing into this next version of me that I thought was my growth arc, but it stopped being fulfilling.
Hmm.
I was on a treadmill. And so I formed an identity of myself as the high six, seven figure coach, took great pride in what I had accomplished because I had broken so many barriers, not just in my lineal system, but in like our world as a female and in the coaching industry at that time. And all of a sudden it just all didn't make sense anymore. It just stopped working. It like it wasn't like me anymore. And there were several things that went into it, but what came out was, who do I really want to be? And I grieved that identity. I wanted it to work still because like reinventing my business and my brand and my authority was not what I had on my bingo card, right? Like that was not my next step. So I embraced it. And what I learned, what I healed a whole nother level of my money mindset. I healed a whole nother level of trauma that I didn't even know existed about, ways in which trust were factoring in or lack of trust was factoring into my growth and my leadership. And what emerged for me was I wanted to have more connection with the people I served. Like I was missing some of that. So the identity shifts as I came along was the identity of a female who had been able to make it so successfully in this scale and on, this emerging market to, okay, so who am I if I'm not that? And recognizing like I am somebody who wants to help people claim their ripple making ability. And part of how I do that is by really integrating and embodying what I'm here to do, and then creating a lighthouse message to amplify that.
I love the concept of lighthouse. Why do you use the lighthouse? Is it because it's the light turning around and then the ripples around, or is that I'm here and
Yeah. I like to think of what happens for a lot of experts and coaches is, especially when they realize like, I need to be visible online. I need to be doing podcast guesting. I need to put content out, right? Is it's like they're shouting into the dark because everything's sounding the same. And the concept of the lighthouse is like, think about the light. It shines really bright and it's like a guidance system. Now, obviously, we want to, the true essence of a lighthouse is we're going to make sure the ships don't hit the shore. But also, you can see that light for a really long distance away. And that to me is the quality that changes everything. When people recognize what magic you can bring to the table, what your superpowers are, and they get a sense of you just simply by hearing your message, it's like this tractor beam that pulls the right people towards you. And what I know for a lot of clients is they need a way to have their message do the heavy lifting because they don't really like marketing anyway. I mean, do we really know a lot of coaches that like marketing?
no?
I don't. I actually just got good at it, but it's still not my great love in the world. Like I love the coaching. I like speaking and I love the work that I do with my clients. I love messaging. I love helping people click into that work, the way they're going to explain what their work is. But yeah, like most coaches, they don't love marketing. So that's why the lighthouse message is it does that heavy lifting. It helps them cut through the noise. And it's kind of catchy if
Yeah.
everybody goes, yeah, I like what you're talking about there. And ultimately I'm on a path to help. I want to help put people on a path to being unignorable
Yeah,
in their marketplace. Nobody
which I
wants to
like.
be ignored and passed over. And I think that that's a quality that helps people stand out.
So the lighthouse, yes, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. What stands out for me with the image is, we're all metaphorically shouting into the dark. Wherever we go, there's messages that are coming off us, as you spoke to before. Sometimes the different ones than the ones that we think we're sending. And part of what I'm hearing you love to do, you're passionate about, and we as coaches would benefit from getting better at is kind of aligning and focusing the messaging. So we're not like a candle in all directions, but the light beam is focused so it can have the impact to get out to the people that are looking for it, who might just be on the edge. So if we can bring that focus, they can start to see it, they can find their navigation, and they can get to where they want to get to, and we can do what we love to do in service of them and their growth.
Yeah, apparently I'm hiring you as my marketing manager. So well said. Thank you. Yes, that is exactly it. And I mean, there's several components. It's like you need to have clarity on what your offer is.
Mhm.
You need to have clarity like who you want to work with, as we were talking about earlier. You need to have clarity on like what you want to be known for in this world. Like a lot of the people I work with, like it's more than just one-to-one transactions like this, the transformation we can have with one person. It's about how do I make big ripples of change on this planet? And they're driven to have this greater impact, but yet they feel like they're just kind of having these little dribbles instead of like big waves. And that is so much easier when you've got these pieces in place and and you're also visible. We haven't even talked about the visibility really yet, but like, are you being visible where your ideal clients are looking for solutions? And there's a lot of ways to do that. So finding the right places with the right audiences so you're in front of your right potential clients.
Do they know you exist? That's
Right.
basically the question they need to answer.
Yeah. Or perhaps they knew you existed, but you're not top of mind. You're not in front of them when they're making the decision.
So what can they do?
Well, I mean, I want to acknowledge that there are different formulas for different kinds of coaches with different superpowers and different audiences,
Yes,
right? Like
please.
what you do, if your market's more of a corporate market or leadership and CEOs is different than what you do if you're more B to C, like your your work is going to touch the lives of individuals. We're going to be visible differently. But one of my favorites that pretty much works across all industries is the podcast, either hosting it or guesting on it or a combination of both. That's one of my little models is called the authority trifecta.
Mm.
And when you host a podcast and you guest on other people's podcasts, and then you have visibility where you share both of those platforms, like on a social media platform, you're starting to have this compounding effect with your what you're known for. So that's one of the things that everybody can do. Everybody can guest on podcasts, especially if you've gotten some support to dial in your topic. So it's really powerful and it's magnetic and it's compelling.
Mm. It's being an authority. Like what they said years ago, you need to write a book. Because when people see when you write a book, and it's what you mentioned before as well, standing on a stage, people see you immediately as an authority and standing there.
Absolutely. A book's another one of my favorites. I don't know. Have you written a book yet, Erwin?
No, I have not.
What about you, Steve?
There's one there.
I've got one that came out
Look
last
at that. So you got
year.
one. I have some that I co-authored. I'm actually in the writing process right now. I'm writing my book, which is due out this summer. But um, one of the things that I know is it's really hard for some people to sit down and write a book, right? Because everything pulls at you. But a podcast interview takes 30 minutes, 45 minutes, right? So, and it's a great way to start to get confident and comfortable and really embody your message. Because you can be a little, some of the clients I work with, they're a little all over the place. It's like, well, I could do this, I could do that. And they talk about all the things. They're flooding the listener with a lot of different information. But then when they go through the process, one of the things is like it gets, as you were talking about earlier, Steve, it like let's take that candle effect and like really hone it in so you're a laser with your words and your message and your energy and the what people experience, and then the right people are going to respond to that.
I love this so much. This is really cool. I got a million more questions, and
Part two.
of many. But this is part of the essence of the message that you're conveying and what you're talking about is, when we talk to the right people, there's a compelling conversation, even if we are sending messages out into what we think is the darkness. But often our messages are what light other people's darkness up. And so for those which is pretty much everyone, for those that are intrigued, that want to learn more and discover more of what you've been sharing with us so tantalizingly yet so informatively today, how can people find you, Melanie?
Oh, well, I'd love it if you reached out on your favorite social media platform. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I'm also on Threads if you're a Threads person. Usually it's Coach Melanie Benson. I put a little resource together a while back for people just like that are listening in today. If you're a coach or an expert who you're like, God, I really want to have that quality of like the message I'm putting out just cuts through the noise. And it's what I call my rocks method. It's a really simple 4-step system, but it's like a cheat sheet to help you get crystal clear. Like, how can you put a message together that's going to have that resonance with my ideal audience or my ideal client? And if you go to melaniebenson.com/coaching edge, see what I did there?
Mm.
Coaching Edge, easy to remember because you're listening to the podcast. You'll be able to download it. It's my gift to you. You can also just go to melaniebenson.com and check me out. But I'd love to hear like what was an aha, what was an insight that came from today. And of course, I'm sure Erwin and Steve would love it if you shared the episode with your friends and connections if you got some value. But I'd personally love to just know what popped for you today.
I love it. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. One of the things that's popped for me is your decision around the question of who do I want to be, which led to you identifying the importance of connection, which is what you've actually built your business around. It's a differentiator, not just for everyone that comes into your world, but for how you get to show up, bringing what you love and creating what's really important to you. And to me, that's the essence of what we're all asking ourselves so that we can be a ripple and not a dribble.
I love it. Thank you, Steve. That means a lot.
For me, takeaways like, and I think it's really important that you mentioned you don't have to, if you have one identity and if it doesn't work any longer, you have the permission to change to another identity or change because some people no, that's who I am, I cannot change. Well, I think you should give you the permission yourself to be able to do this. That's what I get back.
Yeah, and we hold on to what we know because it's safe there. We know how to do that. And let me tell you, it was painful to release that identity at the time. But what emerged is so exquisite and so much more rewarding. And so we have to create space for what we're evolving into instead of saying trapped in a version of us that probably is going extinct. It's not a sustainable place to be. And so if you're in that space, just know like you're not alone in the reinvention and the pivoting. Give yourself some grace, but allow what's coming through because it's a very powerful place to land when you claim it and you allow that to be amplified to the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie, for
Thanks for
today.
having
That
me.
was really interesting. And let's reconnect soon. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.